All right, so this is Chetty for Chetty's Hot Takes. I know it's normally earlier in the morning. I'm usually at the table, maybe eating some breakfast, but this one had to be said. Um, Norm Macdonald died. It's, to put it mildly, it's upsetting. Norm Macdonald, for those of you that don't know, maybe a little too young to know, is a stand-up comedian, actor, talk show host, probably, arguably, top three minimum weekend update correspondence. When he was on SNL, that was his shtick. That's the only thing he did really. There's like a handful of skits that he was in, never really the star of it. With one exception, I guess. He did the Burt Reynolds character when they did the Hollywood Jeopardy or whatever bit for a while, and that was short lived. Eventually, that took over. That was then taken over by, I don't remember his name, but he did the Sean Connery impression instead. But anyway, so Norm Macdonald, best known for the Weekend Update stuff, and that perfect Burt Reynolds impression that he did. Um, he was the best, without a doubt. His dry humor. I to this day, I'll be going through like the YouTube feed and stuff like that. I'll be going down the wormhole a little bit, and one of my favorite things to watch, and I highly recommend people do. I just did it a day and a half ago. Just did it a day and a half ago. Um, is Norm Macdonald on talk shows? Most famously, anytime he was on Conan O'Brien, anytime he was on David Letterman, um, he was just he was supposed to be that role, or at least the second man, the number two as they call it, second chair, and he eventually got it. I mean, he kind of got into the podcast world. There wasn't, they had a show on Netflix, which again I also really highly recommend, called Norm Macdonald Has a Show, I think it was called, and it was supposed to be obviously a take on Norm Macdonald, or Old Macdonald Has a Farm, and he's the talk show host, and the whole thing is his second chair is, I can't remember the guy's name, but apparently he's the manager of it was the Laugh Factory or the comedy store out in California, and they do interviews. They did one with like David Spade. I think it's Joan Fonda. Is her name Joan Fonda? Whatever, the broad. You know what I'm going on. Anyway, and a lot of times, like, the interviews are kind of serious. Like, they go over some serious stuff, but Norm Macdonald always had this way of like taking something that was like a little bit on the serious side, I guess, and just that dry wit of his, turning it into comedy gold. Um, but anyway, so anytime that there was ever those types of videos, I would always try to watch them over and over again. Um, he has a great episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. For those of you who watch Five Things, I've mentioned that's one of my favorite shows, Seinfeld's show, where he interviews a guest. They go get a cup of coffee, and there's a different car every episode. It's a whole thing, but it's been around a while. I'm sure you heard of it. Norm Macdonald was and is just hands down one of the greatest comedians. He was known as being the comedian's comedian, and that's a huge compliment in that world. I follow a lot of stand-up comedy, beyond just watching the specials and stuff like that. I watch a lot of interviews, podcasts, all that kind of stuff, and he is across the board. I don't care what kind of comedy it is, even across the board. Every comedian that I've ever watched, at some point or another, they pay homage to Norm Macdonald and just how amazingly talented the guy was, and really kind of underrated in a lot of ways. He got in some trouble back in the day, but it's part of the reason why he got let go from SNL. He made some jokes. You can look that up. It has to do with some political figures, and let's just say the trial of the century. And no matter what your leanings are, he was funny. It doesn't even matter. It was all he was the guy that it was a joke. It was always a joke. he got in some trouble again. I guess he was on The View, and he had said some stuff, and I mean, he's just foot in mouth. He always got around to putting his foot in his mouth. But it didn't matter because it was Norm. It was Norm Macdonald, and just funny, just a funny guy. So with that, this is a quick hot take, but I just wanted to put it out there in the ether and put it on Nerdbox and in social media. Just that I will miss Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald is a hero of mine. Anyone that watches, I highly, highly, highly recommend. Go on YouTube, look for clips. He had a great stand-up special that he did a couple years back. I want to say about maybe between 5 and 10 years ago now. It has one of the funniest jokes ever about abbreviations. I'm not going to butcher it. It's hysterical. I repeat it to my wife every so often because it's just that funny. It made her barrel over. I don't know. But do yourself a favor. Just indulge, immerse yourself in everything Norm Macdonald. He was great. Even his sitcom, he had a show called what was it called, Norm or something like, and it was very similar to Drew Carey. In fact, he had a spot on Drew Carey early on in one episode. He was a bully, like an old classroom bully or something like that. But his show was very similar in the way that one was filmed. You could kind of see the similarities for sure. But anyway, I'm rambling as I tend to do. Highly, highly recommend. Please go search Norm Macdonald. Search, watch even his movies. Anything with Norm Macdonald. Go do it. Do yourself a favor. Look at the stand-up specials. Watch his shows. He had the Norm Macdonald had a show, and then he had another one that was the same exact format, just a podcast, just an interview thing. I think it was on Podcast One, whatever Adam Carolla's network is. It's on the same network as that, I believe. And same thing, same sidekick, the whole nine. And they just do interviews. There's a fantastic one where he interviews Jim Carrey. As I recall, the Netflix show, because they only did one season. As I recall, the David Letterman episode is really funny. Just go do that. Do yourself a favor. Have a laugh. Have a laugh for Norm. I'm going to miss him. I'm genuinely going to miss him. He was great. He's a great talent that is a huge part of my life and kind of, where I get my sense of humor from, and just great. Miss you, Norm. God bless. There's been hot takes. I don't usually do ones like this. So if you like it, maybe I'll do more. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow Nerdbox. And we're going to be doing a season of, we're going to start filming our next season of 5 Things, myself and Dave. We've got some great guests, some great topics lined up. And, make sure you check us out. Later.